it's Zoe and welcome back to another video on my channel. Oh my god, my hair is like, I don't have my hairspray. Anyways, so for this week's video, I thought I would do a little video on what taking my weekend and evening classes has been like, because that is something new that I've been doing since starting field. And if you've watched my last few like week in the life, you've seen me talk about evening classes. I don't know if I've talked about like weekend classes really, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to tell you a little bit about what it's like taking classes in the weekends, on the weekends, and in the evenings. So for one thing, it's kind of weird, like when I first heard about, like saw that they had classes offered in the evenings, it was a little weird for me because I was used to living on like a residential college where I don't even know if they offered evening classes because I never really looked. But for something like a master's program where, you know, people are coming from all walks of life and a lot of them do work full-time jobs, it definitely makes sense to offer the evening classes. So I think for me, the biggest thing I don't like about them is when I have to go to the social work building, because they start at 6 and that's like right around dinner time, so that makes it a little bit difficult for me to kind of figure out my schedule and like if I want to eat dinner beforehand versus if I want to pack a dinner and bring it with me to the social work building. I also did not like the fact that it ended at 9. Like most of our classes are 3 hours long, but the fact that I have to be there till 9 was just like, I did it because I wanted to get it done, but none of my classes ever really stayed that late. But I think it's just like the concept of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna actually be here until 9. The latest class I've ever had is an 8 to 10, but it was online. So I will say for the evening classes, I much prefer online evening classes. It's easier for me to get dinner. It's easier for me to do things before the class and also like have that transition period from field, because a lot of times my evening classes are on the days that I have field. And the reason why I chose evening classes was so that I could have more free time in my schedule. By putting evening classes at the end of field, it then frees up more time during the end of the week when I'm not in field for me to get work done and all that jazz. So that's kind of what led me to choosing the evening classes. And I will say that I've always appreciated not having to stay till 9. A lot of the professors are really nice about that because I'm sure they don't really want to be there till 9 anyways. As opposed to taking classes during the day, I think I definitely prefer classes during the day, but it's nice to be able to have those free times in your schedule. So I would rather have to take class in the evening and give myself a free day than have to take one class that day, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of how I feel about evening classes. 8 to 10 you would think is hard, but honestly I'm used to staying up that late anyways. I was really worried about having an 8 to 10, but I did it my second semester and it was fine, and I'm doing it again next semester. I think like the professors do a really good job at keeping you like up and engaged. I will say a lot of the evening classes are when you see the less traditional master's students, so like students who are older, students who might have kids or work full-time jobs, especially online. My online 8 to 10, I was the youngest person in that class, and I think I might have been the only one that was like a residential student, meaning like I come to campus. Like I think everyone else is pretty much an online student. So the demographics do change a little bit if you take during the day versus in the evening. And now for weekend classes, I really like weekend classes because they're a great way to get a 1 credit done. So most 1 credits are like pass fail, which is really nice. And I like that you're able to kind of learn more while also having it not impact your grades that much, because it's pass fail and it's only 1 weekend, so you don't have to worry about consistent like work meetings each week. The one downside I will say is that it's weekend and it's usually from 9 to 5. I have had professors that are very flexible in this, like some of them we don't meet for the full 9 to 5, we meet like half the day. But I've also had the classes where you meet the full 9 to 5. I've done both in-person and online weekend classes. I do prefer the online weekend classes. Again, I just prefer online. It's nice going in person, but I think it just depends on the day, on the time of day. But I prefer online weekend classes because I don't have to have my camera on, I don't have to change, I don't have to go out and drive, and I can walk around and like do other things if we're in a break period, as opposed to having to go in person. We only get 10-minute breaks where we have to stay in the building, right? Like, yeah, I could go for a walk, but like I feel more inclined to stay in the classroom during the lecture as opposed to online, where maybe I wanted to like make myself lunch, right? I can still listen while I make myself lunch. So I will say I do get a lot more tired taking the weekend classes because I'm in the class from 9 to 5, so it's definitely more of an exhilarating feeling of, yes, I'm finally let out. But I like that we have the option to do the extra class and like be able to have a time that works for people to be able to take that, right? Like a lot of people do work during the business week, so offering things on the weekends lets you take things that maybe you won't be able to during the week, right? So like they might have some classes that are only 1 credit offered on weekends, and so it gives you the opportunity to take that. Recently I changed one of my month-long classes in the fall to a weekend only in the spring summer, and it just made it a lot easier for me and my schedule to not have to rearrange that and be able to just take it now. And so I really liked the flexibility in being able to do that. So I will say I think it really depends on like who you are as a person and how you function. If you like your evenings, don't take evening classes, but for me, I like having my Fridays completely off where I can focus on other things, and I do that by taking evening classes. Not that there's a lot of classes offered on Fridays anyways, but it would require me to move field on Fridays, and I just like being able to have that day to just relax and chill. A lot of classes that are offered during the day pretty much stick with that Monday through Thursday slot, which a lot of people do choose Mondays as like their day for all classes. I will say if you're doing 6 to 9, I don't recommend doing the 9 to 12 and then the 2 to 5. I've known people to go straight from like 9 to 9, have 3 classes back to back. I think that's really hard, especially if they're all in person, because you're just in the building for 12 hours. So if you take evening classes, I definitely recommend like having, you know, a break in between. I never did an evening class with nothing before. Like I always had field before the evening class. So I think I liked that because it wasn't like I was waiting around until 6, right? Like I had something to do, I went to field. And then again, I liked being able to have a more easier transition period with it on Zoom. I felt less rushed to get myself to the building on time when it was in person versus on Zoom. And so I liked having that like flexibility. And again, online professors are like really flexible in terms of like how the class functions, like the structure of the class. At least that's been my experience, which I've really appreciated. So that is just like, that's really all I can think of right now for like weekend and online classes. If you have any specific questions though, feel free to comment them down below. I'll respond or I'll make another video about them. I fully recommend you take some, even if it's just like one a semester. I think they can be really beneficial to getting your requirements done and your electives done while also balancing something like a full-time job, a part-time job, or even something like this where you have a field internship. So I really like evening classes, but you really have to be the kind of person to like dedicate yourself to do them, especially those 8 to 10 ones. But I think they're worth a shot. Even if you just take one semester, you can figure out if you like it or not. But I'm glad that they offer them, and you should take advantage of them if you can. So anyways, that's my little TED talk on weekend and evening classes. Again, any questions, feel free to comment them down below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.